Okay, so we're at 2 minutes after the hour, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Again, for everyone who just joined since the last time I mentioned it, my name is Greg Simpson. I'm with PairSoft. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy day to join our webinar today. And do remember, if you do have a question, we have an open chat. So feel free to put your question in the chat box and we'll get that addressed if we can. Today, we're going to cover AP automation plus payments and Blackbaud Financial Edge NXT. So that's what we're going to do today. We should use not the whole hour, so hopefully we can give you some time back in your day. But if we do have some time after today's demo and webinar, we'll spend that covering any kind of Q&A. For an agenda, we're going to do quick introductions. We have one slide on Meet PairSoft. So anybody who's new to PairSoft, I'll kind of go through a quick history of where we came from and our experience. I will not spend too long there because everybody joined on today to see the 5 AP features, the top 5 AP features when it comes to invoice processing. So I'll turn it over to my colleague Greg at that point, and we'll cover those key features as well as talk about payment processing. We're going to do a quick demo for you, a high-level demo, so you'll actually get to see the software solution today and how it works. And then, like I mentioned at the end, if we do have time, we'll do a Q&A session. All right, so again, my name is Greg Simpson with PairSoft. I'm on the sales side here. I help folks evaluate our offerings to see if we're a good fit. Later on, if you're curious to learn more about our solutions, you'll have a chance to sign up for a live demo. You might possibly meet me again in that case or another colleague of mine. I've been doing this for quite a while, and I have a lot of experience in the nonprofit and government entity space. I consulted on fund accounting solutions and kind of made my way into AP automation. So a little background on me, and now I'll let Greg introduce himself as well.
Yeah, so my name is Greg Dzurinda. I am the product manager for PairSoft. I've been with the company for just over 6 years now, and a fun fact about me is I actually started as a PaperSave client like way back in the day, and did my own PaperSave like implementation there, and like ran with it for 2 years, and then I loved it so much I decided to jump ship and come over here to this side. So that's a little bit about me.
Very cool. Thanks, Greg.
Yep.
Awesome. So just a quick slide to give anybody who's new to PairSoft an intro and where we've been. PairSoft actually came from 3 companies coming together and forming one company. So there was PaperSave. PaperSave is an invoice processing solution. It's been around for quite a while. Its partnership with Blackbaud goes back, I want to say decades. So it's been around for quite some time. There was also another company called Paramount Workplace. And that was a requisition purchase order automation tool. And then there was also DocuPeek as well, which is another invoice automation and invoice processing tool. And the reason why these 3 companies came together to join forces was mainly due to our integration. So there's a lot of different solutions out there, all promising different levels and degrees of integration with different accounting systems. At PairSoft, what we really want to focus on is what we call native integration. So we're creating AP, accounts payable automation solutions that essentially they act like a module of your accounting system, of your ERP system. So we basically combined all of those solutions together to form PairSoft. And what we're offering now to our clients and what we'll be offering well into the future is a complete P2P solution, meaning a complete purchase to pay. So if requisition and PO is part of your AP process, we can help you automate that. If you start with invoices, we can help you automate that, all the way to actually making that payment, removing manual work, removing those tedious steps that just don't need to take place anymore. That's what our solutions do, and that's what we're doing with PairSoft. All right, and just to kind of show, the company PairSoft has been around for about 4 years. But again, the companies that make up our PairSoft have been around for decades. But since our coming together to join PairSoft, we've won a lot of awards. Here are some just since the 2024 year has kicked off to kind of show you high performer. We're always in the high performing list there. So. Oh yeah, and feel free to check out online. There's a lot of third-party review pages out there, software review pages to check out. So that's it for me. What I'll do now is go ahead and turn it over to Greg so he can chat more about the top AP features we wanted to cover today.
All right. Yeah, so just to highlight some of those top 5 features that we've got here. So like the first is field automations. So like PaperSave does have a really tight integration with Blackbaud NXT. And then like with that tight integration comes the ability for us to like mimic some of those automations that FE already does for you. So like some of those things, could be around payment terms, right? Where like when you have a payment term selected, fills in your fills in your due date, all of that for you. Same with default expense accounts, right? To help like eliminate some of that data entry. We also had the ability to do some more like advanced field automations as well. So, so like if that's something that you're interested in, like please bring that up with us. Uh, the next feature is going to be like interrelated documents. So like, what does that mean, right? Let's say you're on a vendor and you want to see all of the invoices that have come in from that vendor, right? Currently without any document management solution or like without PaperSave, that may be a challenging task. You may have to like dig them up out of a filing cabinet or like go through like one by one, through some network share to try to find those invoices. So with PaperSave, from the vendor record within FE directly, you can actually just click a button and it'll show you all of those invoices for that vendor. We have that functionality throughout other areas within FE NXT as well. We also have some dashboarding within our product, which I'll briefly show you here in a minute. Those dashboards, so like the first one that we're going to go through is just the active like invoice dashboard. So like if you ever wanted to get like a single glance as to where all of your payables are at within the process, like this dashboard is definitely like one helpful way to do that. We also have a historical dashboard as well. So that historical dashboard is going to show you how well your like end users have been approving invoices, who's your slowest approver, who's your fastest approver, how long is it taking for those invoices to get through the process, just to help you like keep up on like where like else you can make improvements within that process. We also have some pretty powerful searching capabilities. So if you're trying to like retrieve documents, whether it's somebody asking for a really simple question or like you're in the middle of an audit, right? We have some really powerful search capabilities there, which allows you to search not only against data that is relevant to that document, but also the record that those documents are like attached to. So if you wanted to build a complex like query within PaperSave to pull all invoices that are between these invoice dates and these amounts and for these specific vendors, you can do that within PaperSave to pull those invoices directly out. And then with that actually comes the honorable like mention here. We have the ability to export that data out to Excel, both within our search product, but also within the workflow product, which you'll see here in a moment. Now, let's talk a minute about like payment processing. So if you look at your process from a whole, right? And if you're familiar with PaperSave, but maybe not our like payment solution, so we now have like within our product the ability to like take your like invoice to pay process from start to finish. So so you'll like receive those invoices like into PaperSave, code them, process them through the like approval workflow, and then we'll create that invoice like inside of FE for you. Then after that, it'll go to a payment like review area where like those invoices can be like batched there until you're like ready to have us pay them. And then once those are ready for payment, we'll go ahead and process those payments for you and create the payment inside of FE NXT as well. So let me go ahead and dive into that demo, and let's go ahead and see how this looks. So currently I am in our PaperSave workflow product. I am an admin of this workflow, so I see everything that's in this workflow, whether I own it or not. But all of your end users, unless they have permission to do so, will only see the items that they are currently assigned to review. I'm going to go ahead and just add some new items into this workflow really quickly. Let me just drag and drop some invoices in here. And then what's going to happen to these invoices is we are going to process OCR on these invoices first. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to identify who's the vendor, what's the invoice number, what's the invoice date, what's the invoice amount. And then on top of that, we are going to run some of those automations that we talked about before, where we are going to be defaulting some of those values, right? So the default GL distribution we're going to try to pull in. We're going to try to pull the default like payment terms and calculate the due date, things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and just open up our first one here, and you'll see we filled in a lot of these defaults for you based off of like the vendor, all right? And I'm gonna just type in an invoice description here. And I'm gonna go ahead and change my invoice date as well, just because these are some older invoices that I've been using to demo with. And I believe 2019 is not an open period within my Blackbaud FE environment anymore. So I will go ahead and make that change here. Just give me 1 second. All right, so then I'm going to go ahead and just submit this item into the workflow, okay? And then once I do that, it's going to automatically take me to my next item in the workflow. And then I can make some similar changes there, change the amount if I need to. And then you'll notice that when I click on some of these fields here, it's actually highlighting on the document where like OCR picked up those values from. And then if I scroll down, I do have all of the rest of the fields that I may need to pass to FE. And here's our GL distribution. Like these accounts here came off of the defaults that are set on the vendor record within FE. I'm gonna go ahead and submit that item into FE. And we do have some checks within the system as well that will tell us whether or not that item already exists within FE. And since I've been using these invoices, those invoice numbers are already in there. Okay, and then my last one, I'm just going to change my invoice number here and change my invoice date and click submit. So now I have those 3 items in our workflow ready to go. So to simplify things in our view here, I'm just going to add a quick filter to this grid so that I can only see specific items here. There are quite a lot that you can do here to filter items. I'm going to do 185. So here's those 3 items that I just clicked submit on. Okay, so from here, I can go ahead and review them again. I'm going to go ahead and route these items out for some approvals, right? Because maybe these need to get approved by a specific reviewer. So I'm going to assign the first one to Sarah. I'm then going to assign the second one to be approved by Valerie. And then we're going to do the third item. Oh, see, there's those like checks, right? Preventing me from moving forward with this item until I resolve those. I'm just going to add some detail to my invoice number there. And then maybe this one I need to send to Bruno. And I'm going to have the same problem here with the invoice date. So I'm going to go ahead and just change that. Perfect. So then when I refresh this grid here, now I'll see all of these are in the review step now, and they are assigned to those individual owners that I had chosen previously. So like those end users can go ahead and like open up those items. They'll get email notifications, saying that they now own that item to be like reviewed. They have the option to approve and like reject from there. There's also an option to do all of this from our mobile app as well. So as an admin, I'm going to come in here and just mass approve all of these. We also have some dollar like thresholds set up here as well. So some of these may get escalated based off of that dollar threshold automatically. And then we have those users like escalation reviewer like programmed in the workflow as well. So all of those now went to the submit to FE step. So they're ready to be submitted like into FE. I do notice that I'm missing the invoice description here on one of these fields. And for those of you that know FE, know that that is a required field. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in. And then I'm going to submit all of these into FE. And then what's happening right now is we're making a live call to Blackbaud to create those invoices like inside of FE and like attach the invoice to that record. And if I just give it a second to go through all three of those. Perfect. So all three of these went into the payment review step where that's telling us that we went ahead and created that invoice record inside of FE, and now they are queued up, like ready to be paid. So like when I open up one of these items now, and I click on like this conversation area here, and I go to the item history, you'll see all the details of all of those approvers that had like reviewed that item, as well as the record that we created inside of FE, which is that invoice. So I'm going to go into FE really quickly. I'm going to go ahead and just refresh my screen here. And you'll see there are those three invoices that we created earlier. There are three others in here because I did run a test right before this just to show some other components. But here is one of those invoices here. And you'll see here are all of the details that we had within PaperSave that got passed over. And then we also have our PaperSave tile, which will show up here, and it'll show the document that was associated to that invoice that we created. And I can go ahead and open that up from here as well and view that document. I can also view that history like with the document as well. All right, so from the workflow now, I have the option to send to like move these invoices along the process, which could vary, right? So let's say your process is you just want your AP processors to choose what's paid and then get them paid. That's fine. We can have that process built into PaperSave here. If your like invoices need to go through some like additional like approvals, that's fine as well. That can be programmed within this process. We have some customers that maybe only invoices greater than X dollar amount need to be like approved by the controller or the CFO. like that's a common practice as well. We can like replicate that approval process within our PaperSave workflow here. So let's say I'm going to go ahead and clear my filter here so I see everything that was in my workflow, and I'm going to go ahead and drill down into that payment review step within the workflow. And these are all of the invoices that are in payment review, right? So this may be a similar view that you would see where you've sent invoices throughout the week to get entered into FE, and now you're ready to make your payment batch, right? So you would be able to come in here and you would be able to select those invoices that are ready to be paid. And let's say we do have a like approval process that we need to follow. So I'm going to send those payments out to be approved. And I'm going to go ahead and click that. And now if I just clear my step filter here so I can see where those went to the payment approval step here, and they got assigned to Angela because that's who I set as my payment reviewer. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and select all of these here. And let's say like Angela comes in and she clicks approve. Then that's going to route them to like the next step, which could be another level of like approval based off of that dollar amount, right? And if I look at this first item here, the dollar amount of that invoice was $25,000, right? So that first invoice needed to get one more level of like approval before we can pay it. So so like that item went to Sammy. So let's say Sammy, comes in, he like approves that item. And then those went into the FE payment pending step. So what we're doing here is we have sent the like invoice like details to our payment processor for them to like validate that they have all of the necessary like information to pay that vendor. As long as they do, then like items will come into this FE payment pending step. And then once the payment like reaches a certain stage, then we will go ahead and create that payment within Blackbaud for you. So that process can take up to 15 minutes. It could take longer depending if we're like waiting for the payment to actually be delivered to like the vendor. Or like we can create that payment as soon as as soon as our payment processor has all of those details. Okay. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what that payment looks like within FE, and I'm going to go back to one of these that were already paid. So like if I look at this invoice right here. So like you'll see that like this invoice came in from PaperSave. You'll see the PaperSave document attached here like in a moment. And we also went ahead and paid that invoice right here. So like those invoices will come in as a computer check, and it will have similar details that you'll see if you like manually cut that check as well. So then if I go back into that invoice for a moment, and then if I actually open up that PaperSave item that created that invoice, and we'll take a look really quickly at the history. So the history of that document, there's a lot of details that we're capturing here, but the first step is like we created that invoice, and then we sent it out for that payment approval, and then once it was fully approved, we put it in a queue to be paid. We got the status back that, hey, like this is good to be paid. The status is currently pending. And then once the status changed from pending to like in progress, that's when we raise the event to then go ahead and create that payment record within FE. And here's the details that we created within FE. Once the payment has been fully fully processed within FE, we are moving that item to a completed step of the workflow. So here are those 3 items here that we submitted like before the session here. So they will just go to the completed step of the workflow where like they will live there. That is the complete process from invoice to payment there. Some of the other features that we talked about like earlier on the slide deck, right? I did just want to highlight, like the searching capabilities, right? So if I wanted to go through PaperSave and maybe see all of the invoices for, let's say, Hiller, right? I can go into our search area here and I can use our simple search and just, I simply type in Hiller. And that's going to search quite a lot of things for the word Hiller. So we may get vendor documents, we may get invoice documents, like this, so like this particular like PaperSave environment's also connected to RE as well. So like we have a document here that had the word Hiller in it. So there's quite a lot of areas that we're searching here, like within our simple search. But let's say you wanted to get a more, like narrowed down search. We can drill down and let's look at, like invoices specifically, and let's add a criteria here where maybe the vendor name contains Hiller. And let's search. And here are all of those payable invoices that matched that search criteria. And it has some high level like information that we're getting out of Blackbaud to help you narrow down which invoice you may be looking for. You also have the ability to export this data to Excel here. And if I go ahead and just open up that file, and I drag it over here as soon as it finishes opening. Here is that file, and it's going to contain all of that information that we saw like on the screen here, but it's also going to contain clickable links to be able to open up that file as well. So it makes it really easy to share that information with others. So the other way to accomplish the same thing that we did, which was one of the other like mentions on the PowerPoint, was the interrelated documents. So if I go ahead and open up Blackbaud here, and let's say I go to that vendor record within FE. And let's go ahead and open up Hiller. Let's click View. We're going to navigate to our PaperSave tile here. We're going to click on this View Interrelated Documents button here. When I do that, I'm going to reach out and look for all of the documents that are related to that vendor record. So I'm going to see like vendor contract details, but I'm also going to see like invoice documents. And then if I filter this down just a little bit so that I only see the invoice like record type here. So let's just say invoice. Then I'm going to see the like additional metadata that goes with that so that I can see those invoice numbers here. And we have the same like export capability here if you need to do that as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and jump back into the demo and then hand it back over to Craig.
Great. Thanks, Greg. So as you saw from the quick demo, and we do see that there are some questions in the Q&A. We're going to get to those as soon as we're done here. But like Greg was showing you when we were demoing the solution, everything's going to be automated. We're removing paper from the process. An invoice will come in. There's no hand keying that transaction in. It'll get created inside of Blackbaud. And then when you're ready to pay, you'll then create that batch of payments. You'll have full control and visibility over that. We don't make payments until you tell us to. But really what you saw was your responsibility in regards to the payment solution. As soon as you hit that approve button, that's when we take it from there and we actually make that payment on your behalf. And I know there's a lot of questions on that. So hopefully some of this slide will cover that. So when you create your batch of payments, and you can do that however you want. If you currently make your check runs or your payments once a week or twice a week, whatever, you'll have full control over that. But you'll create the batch and you'll hit the approve button, and that's essentially you signing the check at that point, right? There's an approval process. I saw that one of the questions is currently we have a two signature approval process. You can mimic that in our solution with our workflow tool. So we have an approval workflow tool. You can set rules like depending on if it's a certain vendor, a certain amount. We can even get more granular on like how it was coded and things like that can trigger people to be brought in and out of the approval process. And then you're also able to see all the information that you need to see. So you're going to see the image of the invoice, how it was coded, who approved it and when, any notes that might have been made during the processing of that invoice. And then again, you'll hit the approve button, and then your job is over. In your eyes, that payment is made. But in the real world, there still is some work that needs to be done to actually get those funds to your vendors and your suppliers' hands. And that's what I'm going to cover here on this slide right now. So after you hit the approve button, we take it from there. We get the file of approved payments, and then what we're going to do is we're going to actually deliver that payment to your vendor or supplier, and we do that by enrolling them into the network, that number 2 bullet there, supplier enablement. So what we're going to do is we're going to work with you to create a campaign to reach out to your vendors and suppliers to get them enrolled in our network. And once we make contact with your vendor, we will educate them on all the different ways that they can get paid. So your vendor can receive a check if they want, or they can receive one of the many different types of e-payment options that we have. And depending on how your vendor and supplier would like to get paid, we then will collect that information so that you don't have to. So if it's a check, we'll collect the address that it needs to go to. If they prefer an EFT, like an ACH, we'll collect and handle that sensitive bank account information so you don't have to. That's, limiting a liability on your side there. So we'll do all of that legwork. Again, we're going to work with you and consult with you on how you want us to approach it, but we will do all the legwork to enroll your vendors and get them signed up and paid. And then it is an ongoing service. So this isn't like a one and then we're done helping you enroll your vendors. No, anytime that you have a new vendor, because we have that native integration into Blackbaud, we can see into your active vendor records in real time. So as soon as you mark one as active and approved, we can then go ahead and enroll them as well if we need to. So we can reach out, again, educate them on all the different ways they get paid, collect the information we need, and then make the payments from there. You're also getting a frontline payment operations team. These are folks that are monitoring your payments all in real time, making sure that everything's happening as it should, that you're not going to receive any kind of phone calls like, where is, the money for invoice 1234 or something like that. So we're going to be monitoring everything, handling front end calls. If your vendor receives a payment and has a question about it, your contact info will be there, but ours will as well. So they can give us a call and we can fill those kind of frontline inquiries, giving your team more time back in their day. You're not having to stop doing what you were doing just to answer a simple question from a vendor. We can now take that on as an added service for you. And then most importantly, our payment solution, just like with PaperSave, our invoice automation solution, it's all built off the same integration with Blackbaud. So you are going to get that native integration. Anything that happens in our solution is going to happen in Blackbaud in real time. There's not going to be any kind of delayed in data. So when you go to look at your reporting inside Blackbaud, that is up to the date data in regards to your cash flow and your accounts payable process. And that's really it. I know there's a lot more questions here. Me and Greg are going to stay on and answer those. We have plenty of time today. So let me pull some up. And Greg, did you want to just kind of hop into the invoice processing side?
Yeah, sure. So the first question we've got in here is, can you set up a default reviewer? And the short answer to that question is yes. The long answer is, let's talk about how you would want us to do that, right? So like, is it based off a vendor? Is it based off a project GL account, right? Like all of those are options, right? We would just want to like sit down and talk with you on, how would you want us to programmatically set those defaults for you? And then we have many different avenues to be able to like accommodate those like those kinds of defaults. The next question that we've got in here: do all users have the ability to view status of the invoice in the workflow and the conversation history? So by default, right, like we have like permissions set up within the workflow, and the default level of like permissions is that they are only going to be able to see the items that they own. There are some like additional like permissions that can be set where they can view items that they do not own, but that is an all or nothing type of like permission, right? So that's not something that's widely used, but we also have some reporting options for you too, where like users can see items that they've approved in the past. So that may be one option for you, if you have that requirement for them to go in and see those items, like no matter where they're at in the process. Our like next question here. So like this question is talking about using the auto entry plugin from like FE Database View. For those of you that are like existing customers that are currently using the auto entry plugin from the database view, there is a process to convert you over to the new way. So please reach out to your like account manager. Let's talk about getting you converted over from what we call PaperSave Data Access Service connected to Sky API connected, and that is going to be the method that is going to like allow you to just push those invoices directly into FE without having to go into database view first. So that is that. Let's see, what is our next one here? Check requests. We have frequent check requests for reimbursement, for petty cash replenishment, where like expense receipts are required. So we do have a form module. I'm going to dive back into PaperSave here for a moment and sign in here. So we have a web form module that you could use, and just give this a moment here to like open. That like web form like module is a place where your end users could fill in necessary field details for that check request, as well as like add any like supporting documents that may go with it. So just give this a moment here, and I will quickly show you what that looks like. So let's say I'm coming in here to fill out a check request. I'm going to go ahead and fill out some fields, keeping in mind we have some of the same capabilities here that we had in PaperSave to like default some of these things. Like this is a demo form here. Like this form can be designed however you need it, like whatever field you may need. But I'm going to go ahead and just fill in some of these fields here. And I have lookups here, similar to what we have within PaperSave, pointing to data within FE. Just filling out some details here. And then we have the account number maybe that we need to fill in. And the amount. Okay, and then maybe I need to attach my receipt. I can go ahead and click attach here, browse for files. I'm going to go ahead and just grab a file here. Okay, and then click OK. And then once I'm done attaching, I can go ahead and submit this form. It is asking me for my amount here. And I click submit again. And what that's going to do is that's going to submit this into the workflow, just like a normal payable invoice. So like it can follow the same approval process that you may have, or it could follow a completely separate process. It's completely up to you on how we would design that out. Okay. that was a really quick demo on SmartForms. So if you're still interested in that, please, please connect with us. We can talk more on a more like in-depth demo. We have a common mailbox for like receiving invoices like into AP. Like PaperSave does have the ability to like monitor folders within a mailbox. That could be the like invoice. It could also be, or sorry, the like inbox, or like it could be a subfolder of that inbox as well. And then what we do is we would grab the attachment off of that email and add the attachments into the workflow as individual items. And that does include Word documents as well.
I think the next one is a pay question. I can get that one for you.
Yep.
So how can we get a copy of the cash check? So yeah, you're going to have complete visibility and also a complete audit trail of the payment process as we're making the payment on your behalf. And one of the things that you're going to see there is when we cut the check, if that's what your vendor supplier wants is a check, we're going to cut that check and you'll immediately be able to see an image of the check that we're going to use. So you'll have a dashboard that you can log into. You click on the button, it'll show you a PDF of the check that was used. And then when the check is cleared, we'll actually show both front and back of that as well on the same dashboard. You'll be able to get a PDF version of that. Positive pay is included with every check that we send out. So that's how we have those images. So even though we're going to be monitoring all of that in real time, making sure that the payments are going out, you're going to have the ability to have that information as well. And I think I saw it later on, but I'll go ahead and, oh yeah, if it's timely, yes, that's part of the solution is that we're going to be reaching out, monitoring these payments. If we send out a check and we notice that it hasn't been cashed or cleared, we're going to be proactively reaching out to that vendor and supplier, asking, what can we do to make sure that this is cleared in a timely manner. We do the same thing with some of the EFTs, although not all of them need that because they go directly into bank accounts, but we do follow up and make sure that payments are there, and security, including positive pay, is included in every payment.
I think the next one's back to me now. So what happens when a like approver receives a notification that they own something, but then they don't do anything to it, right? And it sits there. So our like notifications, we do have the ability to like send notifications out every X number of hours. Like telling the end user all of the items that they have to like review in their queue. And then we also have some out of office options. So like if a like end user goes out of office, they can turn that on and items will automatically get forwarded to whoever they set up within their out of office. And then whoever is an admin of the workflow also has the ability to move things along in the process, to change the items to different owners, whatever you may need to do to keep that item moving throughout the process. Next question is, what is the typical number of AP staff that would be optimal when using PaperSave, 1 to 2 persons? That really depends on like your volume of like invoices and like whether or not your like AP team is going to be doing most of the reviewing and any of the like data entry that may need to happen, or is that going to be your like approvers? We have customers that have 1 AP like person doing all that. We have some that have 10. So it really it depends on like what kind of volume you have.
Yeah. Volume, and then I'd also say to look at the other way is the growth. I think a general number that I've seen out there for years is the 4X rule, that you can take on 4 times as much volume without having to hire an additional FTE for your AP team. So something to think about there. Oh, it looks like the next one is a pay one, so I'll take that. So does PaperSave send out checks if we decide? So I think the answer is, can we send out checks to your vendors? If that's what your vendors prefer, yes. We have a couple of dozen check cutting facilities around the United States. We'll use whichever one is closest. If the question was, you would like to use us to automate payments, but you might need to cut a check physically in-house, you can do that too. So if that was the question, when you add PairSoft for invoice automation and payment automation, you don't lose any functionality. out of your accounting system. So, I usually like to joke around with the story that, your landscaper is in your office and they're not going to leave the lobby until they get their check. Go ahead and just cut the check out of your accounting system from there if you'd like, or you can tell them, hey, you'll get your payment and as quick as possible through PairSoft Pay. That'll be up to you.
Right, and I think the next one's back to me now. So if the search is to provide backup monthly, can the search be saved to reuse each month? So within our PaperSave search area, so like this search criteria that I built right here, I have the capability to save that search, and then I can also load from save searches from here. So like maybe here's my save search, and then all I may have to do is just change some date values or something like that, each month, but I wouldn't have to rebuild that whole search criteria each month. So good question.
So we still have some time here. So check number. So we usually get the request to start with a particular check number. We can do that for you if you'd like. If the other question is more just, for audit purposes, being able to identify payment, you're also going to get an ID number that you'll be able to track all the way from Blackbaud to PaperSave to your PairSoft Pay dashboard to your bank statement. So you'll have that identification number that goes all the way through. So you'll be able to know exactly where this came from and how it was applied and all that kind of good stuff. Do vendors have the ability to see payment notifications, or will that still have to come? Yes. So for some of our options, some of our e-payment options, your vendors will have access to a portal. We typically see this with your larger regional vendors and your big name, big box vendors, where they'll be able to see in real time the payments that are on their way to them. And of course, if they do have a quick question, they can call us and we'll fill that question for you. But yet the answer is yes, your vendors will have the ability to see payment status. They'll be notified when payments are made or in their accounts and things like that. If we wish to continue our own EFT payments and some checks, can we do that? Yes, you do not lose any functionality when you bring on our solution. Obviously, we want to remove as much manual work as we can. We want to keep you from having to stand in front of that printer and watch checks get printed out. We want to, limit your liability when it comes to holding on to bank account information. So we do believe it's a lot easier just to load up the batch of payments, approve what you want, and then hit the button and go from there. But if you would like to make your own payments, you will have that ability. How can we get confirmation that the payment has reached the vendor in case of check payment? Again, you will have that dashboard. And that would be a good next step for a lot of folks, because I know there's a lot of questions on, how the money moves, how everyone's notified that the payment actually arrived at its destination where it's supposed to. On a full demo, we can actually cover all of that for you. So if you do have any questions after today's webinar, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll make sure to schedule a full demo to answer all of those detailed questions. But you will have all the info that you need to answer any questions if a vendor does call you about a particular payment. Looks like quite a few. I know that we're coming up on time. We have about 10 minutes left. Can we opt out of the feature? Yeah, I'll let you take the next ones here, Greg.
Yep. So if you're currently using auto entry, can we get the terms to pull over from NXT? Yes. Please just reach out to your account manager, and we'll get something set up for you. Like to get that change. I discussed. We get handwritten invoices from small vendors. Do we have the option to manually populate the fields? Yes, and sorry, I kind of skipped over that pretty quickly there. But within the workflow product here, you can manually change any fields that may come in from OCR, right? We're still going to try to OCR that handwritten invoice. It may not be very good, right, depending on the handwriting, but let's say it got something wrong. You always have the ability to correct anything that OCR may have gotten wrong. So you can change the amount, you can change the vendor. whatever you may need to do there. Let's see. Oh, yeah, we talked about the dashboards, but we didn't really show them, did we? So here are the dashboards that we have available here. If I go ahead and just choose the active like workflow items, so like this gives you like a glance of what's currently within the workflow, what's currently outstanding, right? We are reading some of those fields, so like the due date, to like build these aging buckets, right? And then we're giving you some high level information about like the different vendors, like invoices that are in here too, that may help you pick out which vendors you want to work on right now. So maybe I want to come in here and I want to really focus on these past due invoices, right? So I can go ahead and, like click on that past due. That's going to take me right to this list here. Okay. The other dashboard that we have is the historical invoices. So this, talks more about what's already gone through the workflow process, right? So like, let's take a look at our fastest approvers, our slowest approvers. Let's look at how many invoices we process each month or like year to date. And then some like detailed like analytics on like, okay, like what's our like average invoice amount? What's the total that we've processed like year to date, right? Just at a glance, a quick way to see how much you're utilizing the system now. All right.
I see one on payments here. So like emergency payments. So the answer is yes. If you need us to make like an emergency payment, emergency wire, we can. But the idea behind our solution is that we're going to mitigate that where you're just not going to need to do that. So you're going to have complete visibility into the payment and control of when it goes out. As soon as you approve a payment, the timing is pretty quick. If that vendor supplier is on one of our electronic payments, they'll typically get that money within an hour of you approving it, hour or two. So pretty quickly. If it's before 1 p.m. Eastern time, that payment will go out that day. If the vendor is on a check, if you approve that payment and to us by 1 p.m. Eastern, we will cut the check, again, out of one of our many facilities, whichever is closest to the vendor, and then we'll put it in the mail for them. So I think the next question is on OCR.
Let's see. I don't know, maybe our questions got out of order, but let's see, because it looks like a lot of them are like duplicates around payments there, like being able to cut checks themselves. If I scroll down a little bit more here, we've got, can we create a group for approval so that anyone in the group can approve? The answer to that is not yet. That is something that is currently in development, and we hope to have that out in the next couple of months. But you would have the ability to like route route items to groups, and then the first person that grabs it is able to like approve that item. Not sure, Clay, did I miss a question up there maybe?
I'm not sure. I think they got out of order for me. See, there's a smart form question. There is one when it comes to checks. So like checks that, so I'll take that one. So yeah, so again, we're going to be following up, doing everything we can to make sure that the vendor supplier gets the payment and actually processes the check. But after a certain amount of time, if we find out that's just not going to work, it's not the case. Of course, we've already let you know about this as well before time, but if we need to, we will void the check and then we will refund the funds back to your account. Again, on a full demo, I can talk about how all that works and timing, but it all happens pretty quickly. We can even provide you with all the paperwork you need for your state's escurchment. That's a hard word for me. Hopefully I got that right, process. So if you need to fill out any forms there, we'll provide the audit trail showing, that we did our due diligence and we reached out several times to try to make that payment. But
All All right. And then one other quick thing was that, like I mentioned earlier about like the default terms. Can you show how that's displayed in PaperSave? So if I go back to the workflow here, and I go ahead and just open up an item here. And if I scroll down, there are quite a lot of fields here. All of these are not required, but you'll see the payment terms field here. So like if I were to manually select this vendor and then like click out of it, that's when we're gonna hit with some of those defaults, right? And like one of those defaults is the payment term. So and now you'll see that that payment terms is now filled in based off of that vendor that I selected. Same with the like method of payment, I believe we're pulling in from the vendor, and the like 1099 statement, things like that, we're pulling in automatically from the vendor card.
Well, I know there's going to be more and more questions, and that's to be expected, and we'll be happy to address those for you. Like I said, we didn't want to plan for an hour today. We're coming up on that hour. But if anybody is interested, I'd highly recommend reaching out. Greg, I think there's some contact info on the next slide. There you go. So feel free to reach out. Demos, full demos of the whole solution. You've already gotten kind of a preview, so maybe another hour of your time and you could get kind of the full picture of how it all works, and we could address your questions. For any team members that might not have been able to join today's webinar and you want them to have the full demonstration, we typically say plan for about an hour and a half, although we can get done faster in many cases. So reach out. We'd be more than happy to schedule that for you. And other than that, just want to say thank you for taking time out of your busy day, and we appreciate it. Greg, anything from you before we close it?
I think that's it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, we appreciate it. Thank you.